According to the FBI, there are roughly 33,000 street gangs in the U.S. today. They're sophisticated, violent, and they're expanding. They do so by recruiting young people, sometimes as young as 10 years old. I speak to Antonio Fernandez, a former leader of a notorious street gang known as the Latin Kings. By sharing his personal struggles, he offers his life as a cautionary tale for young people. His is also an inspirational story about the possibilities of second chances in life.
In the United States, around 56% of Latinos have been ensnared in the criminal justice system. Of those, 53% are more likely to be convicted of drug crimes, according to the League of United Latin American Citizens. I met Tony right outside our studios here in Washington, D.C.
So good to see you. Looking forward to chatting with you. Let's head this way.
Each individual's road is different, right? Because each of their oppression is different. And that's why we learn each kid, you got to make an individual life plan. The one he tells you that starts with everything that's got him in the gutter.
Growing up in the murky 1970s East New York City streets, Tony witnessed a community mired in despair, marked by poverty, crime, and a lack of opportunities.
You said you grew up in the capital of hopelessness, which I thought, wow. Describe that for me.
Well, it was, I think, 70s, East New York, Brooklyn, one of the most... If you could see like what's going now in the wars that you see like in Iraq and stuff, buildings, that's what East New York looked like. That there was a war here, like somebody actually went to war in East New York. And then we had the famous 75th precinct. You could look that up in Netflix, right? The special on them. So the cops was just as corrupt as the criminals in East New York, which is really dangerous, right? And so that's hopelessness at its best, right? When oppression leads, even the lawman gets corrupted by the oppression in a place. So that's why I said it was the capitalism of hopelessness. The teacher would call you the teachers were hopeless because they were 40. I think it was a time, real serious times, you know, and for us, and poverty connected me to hopelessness. It really did. It made me feel like I could never reach that American dream that my pops couldn't reach it, my mom's couldn't. So you get it? I said, so this is where I'm going to stay, you know? And it was pretty scary, right? Burned buildings. And still you had community and love. Don't get, the Puerto Rican community was full of life. The dominoes would bang. But the echo of what was missing was quite evident. And that was that we were not from America and we were poor.
There's this story in the United States, you just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you can make the American dream. But in an environment like that, that's simply impossible, isn't it?
Before you know the American dream, I had to know who was a Puerto Rican. Why was Antonio Fernandez? And my two parents were lost in themselves, being second generation brought, married at 18 and 19, get married, get a job. He delivered bread. And that's 13-hour job his whole life to make it. My mom had to be on public assistance. But for America to give you public assistance, you got to say your father don't live with you. First shot to the family. I got to deny my father. He's got to be embarrassed so we could eat. My mother got to lie to the government to get coupons to eat. The greatest thing you could see your parent do is lie for need. So you get hopeless, right? You go, that's what East New York offered you, was that underground misfit economy. It really didn't offer no future. It offered a lot of personal insult. I couldn't learn quick. I couldn't speak the language. So it was very confusing for me, school. So I thought that I'll learn with my eyes and do it like most people who came here like immigrants, instead of depend on America, on my wit, and to get out there and really to meet that hopelessness, right, and try to make it out of there, because my parents were stuck. You see, that's me at 9. They stuck. They ain't going nowhere. This is it, and I didn't want to stay there, you know what I mean?
By 9 years old, Tony had already dropped out of school and was dealing drugs. By 15, he was making a staggering $100,000 a month.
You enter the misfit economy. What does that look like?
That looks like a lot of observation first, and then my teacher was really rude, and he was already getting obnoxious, Mr. Chodish, 159, I could remember. And one day he caught me cheating on a spelling test, and he just embarrassed me. So the long story short, I said, you know what, I'm going to be a drug dealer. That's when I decided to sign. I said, I'm going to be a drug dealer. I know how to, I seen it. I could do that because a lot of my dudes did it. I spoke the language. I had the wit for it. And I got a good charisma with people. So I started joining the drug game at 9 as carrying a bag, as bringing the money for them, just talking. And in that, I touched that American dream right in my hand. So I said, oh, so this is the remedy of hopelessness.
So how long before you really started to make some, I mean, you make serious cash doing that.
Yeah, the sad part, I was doing it 2 houses from my mother. So I wanted to show her, right? And me and a group of me, like the Lords of the Flies, we had a little group that we made the same deal. After I made the deal, let's make it. And we went to the bigger guys and we got involved, and that's how hopelessness grabs you. And they taught us, hey, you know, you can make it quick without an ID, without all that stuff that's demanded. And it was a different kind of drug game than today, I might say, too. You know what I mean?
Still dangerous, though, right?
Always. It was, but numbers, right? I remember when numbers were run by the Italians and Puerto Ricans called bolitas, right? They arrested a lot of us. Now it's called lotto. I remember I could go through a lot of marijuana. We're still in jail for it. Now they taxing it. It's called, right in D.C., you can smoke it. So my point is, the things we created, us immigrants, from our boots, and we couldn't make money. Instead of investing in us and teaching us how to do legal, you arrest us, then you steal it and charge taxes and make it legal. I'm not trying, but that's the part I hated. I said, wow, so the first one who wrote the law is the one who broke it.
Antonio Fernandez, or Tony, once known as King Tone, rose to prominence as the leader of the Latin Kings, one of the largest and most notorious street gangs in the United States. He served over a decade in federal prison, spending 3 years in solitary confinement, where he had time to reflect on his life while coming up with a plan to reconnect with society. After serving his time, Tony became an influential advocate for social change, addressing the issues of gang violence and urban poverty.
You did solitary confinement for a time, and there's this great quote about this form of punishment. It's from many years ago. Solitary confinement is too terrible a punishment to inflict on any human being, no matter what his crime. Hardened criminals in the men's prisons, it is said, often beg for the lash instead. It's called no-touch torture. Is that a good way to describe it?
It's if you never, I heard people, oh, I want to be by myself, or I want to pray, you know, lock yourself in the closet. Well, let's go to this. America got a big test of how much it wants to be alone and be home with their family and kids during the coronavirus. We've seen parents and mothers and fathers scream, no more, tap out. I said I wanted to be home more than work, but I was totally wrong. We don't want to say that because we were all going crazy because we had to be with our kids. We had to be with, everything was where we were, our family. And it drove us crazy, right? But we still loved it that we wasn't alone. That's the difference. But when they do that madness and you're alone, the only family you got is your mind. The only historical value you have, if you fell in that hole, what did I do so wrong, right? That's the first thing you do. You have a pity party. What else could you do in the dark by yourself? And then after you realize that don't work no more, I found out, I seen people eat their feces. I seen a dude take a light bulb, put it in his eye and turn it. I was a suicide watch because I always help my people, even in the shoot. And so it'll take a man and take him beyond sanity. And I say to this, where I'm starting a movement called No More 23-in-1, abolish ADX, the ADX for the federal penitentiary.
For people who aren't familiar, what is ADX?
ADX in the federal government, and it's the highest security jail in the country and the world. I was in Pollock next to it, which is the next one. But the point is, the whole jail is made with cells where humans never see another human.
Tony works tirelessly to provide guidance, support, and mentorship to individuals who face the challenges of behavioral issues.
245 times. You will give him a clean urine 245 times. The 246 you put dirty, he will lock you up. And he did a bid, and a real bid.
What about these kids? You must stay in touch with them. What are some success stories for you?
Well, success is some that have to go do 20 years in the feds, but I trained them how not to train 20 years into a lifetime. That you could hope for them 20 and come home back like I did, and Buddy Love did, and Sean did. But also those that are going in the street, we could give them the hope already. You taste something that I taste. Now, do you want to spend 32 years like I did to find out the answer, or you want to cheat and learn it too? And they go, okay, Toe, we see what you're saying. And then I marry them with a brother that takes them out to prison and meets them at the gate. It's called Meet 'em at the Gate. So he goes home with a big brother. And that's the dream, right? To have a big brother when you're lost and you need somebody to bring you back. So that's my dream, that we give that opportunity to every big city.
You have to look at your life and say, I could have gone in this direction. Instead, I chose this one. If you'd gone in that direction, would I be talking to you today?
No, I'll probably be in ADX doing the rest of my life, because King Tone was an idol that was based on fear, and the only way to not be fearful is be more scarier than the boogeyman. And I don't want to be the boogeyman no more. It's not in me. I can't even try no more. Even when I'm angry, I say, you're not that dude anymore. So that's what I hope, that I could help every kid understand that your anger is based on fear. Your gangsterism is based on fear. So we could replace that with hope, and you don't have to be out there the way you think you are right now, because hope is better than fear. The first mistake is what they remember you by. The last one, they go, you see, there he go again.
Tony now dedicates his time and devotion to making a meaningful impact in the lives of troubled youth across the U.S. and the world.
We've talked about the different paths. You know, each one has to have a different roadmap because each one comes from a different environment. What about what we're seeing here in the United States? Obviously, you're working in Washington, up in New York as well. What about other countries, Sweden, Spain, Ecuador, a number of different countries. Each one are probably unique, just like the prisoners themselves.
So I worked in Ecuador for 10 years with the governor, with President Carrera. He was very strong. With Dave Brotherton from John Jay College, he's a great professor. You can look him up. He's been with me since 95. And Louis Badia. So we had this great theory that, how about we take what you did here and take it to Ecuador? They're really interested in it. So we went and developed where we got the government, the police academy, and the prison system to create a 9-month program with the church to legalize the gangs. Not break them up, not destroy them, with the concept that they participate in the things that government creates for the people to have a voice and vote. And we went on this 9-month quest where the college is dancing and the whole gang, not someone. So the Kings, the Powers, all the groups they had. So you found out through this thing they brought in, because they were getting safe spaces. We call it safe space for power groups. Don't try to pull one out. Let's put them all in one place, bring in the right voices, tell the leaders, we'll make you, before you commit your greatest mistake, how about we teach you how to really lead these people to a real economy? Long-term existence, not short-term. Turn hopelessness into dope deal, right? And we did that in Ecuador for 10 years. In the process, after 9 months, the president of the country will graduate the gang leader in the gang and give them their corporation papers. And then they were responsible to continue on the path of looking for economic, like open a bus station, open furniture stores, get it? Or just in their existence, help and be positive. And you say it's crazy. So 76% of the gang chose to stay. The parts that's still dead, the parts that are stuck in the economy and want, the deal was, we'll let you exist. We're not going to go to war with you. But when you do something, they come get you and they're right. We're going to denounce that behavior as a power group in the media and say you were wrong, but we'll still be through you through the consequence when you come home, we still help you. But we're no longer always going to blame the police. And when they're right, they're right. So imagine that. And out of 8 power groups, 3 made it. because it wasn't cool being a gang no more.
Oh, wow.
You change. It was too hard. And the leaders were making you go to college and go to these meetings. So those would freak this, right? The ones that they wanted. But Lam said, wow, we're getting a path. So Ecuador changed. It was an enormous success. El Salvador is different. America's foot in the Salvador's imprint. Could I say this? Nobody wants to say this, and it's sad that immigration from America is the drug, is the gangs, is the cancer of America. Is when the hopeless people from El Salvador, they came here. But of course, we go to California. MS-13 isn't, that name didn't come, there's no 18th Street in El Salvador. It's in California. So the poor kids come here with parents of immigrant, their kids in the ghetto, they get the patch. We find them. We got them the cancers there. Then we send him back to El Salvador, but now he isn't now El Salvador no more. He's not a Salvadorian. They don't see him as that. They see him as an American. So what's his only hope? Make them MS-18. So now I could, and that's the cancer. That's our cancer. That's our immigration policy out of our poor neighborhoods without tag deals and send it to a country without warning them the sickness they picked up. So now El Salvador, because it's so bad and loose, America is against the law for you to do a credible messenger program in El Salvador. If the president or any official that meets with gang members, they could be put on a blacklist from America. So, you don't get funds. Then how do you help the disease? Where are we teaching these things? So each country, you see, Sweden is beautiful. They've learned that humans commit crimes. And in finding that, they found out that some of them, even though they kill, could find repentance and 25 years come home. But if we don't break them more with punishment to get revenge, and we put them through the human process of empathy, learning what happened, what could have happened in your mind that took you there, and bring them home in 30 years to try to live a second part of life with repentance and understanding that he owes so much more to his community for freedom, right? And I'm just so confused, and it's beautiful when you see it. I've been to Riga, and I knew what really freedom was for. And then, it's a hard country, and it's all blue-eyed and blondes, but it's poor. You have to pay a quarter for ice. You have to pay for salt. You get it so out with store everywhere in the world that had blonde, blue eyes. They were rich and they lived free, and they had it. And then I thought, wow, it isn't about. It's economics. It's all the other things that violence comes from. It's negligence. It's people that stop caring, right? So I think America is hopeless. Its government has become hopeless. And they rely on the lie now because it's easier than fighting for the truth. It takes courage. It takes to stand up. It takes to treat your own like you treated the other for 300 years. And that's hard.
Thanks so much. It's been quite insightful. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.